Wow. Timothy Bradley disrespects Errol Spence and says he doesn't think, even if Terence Crawford went over to PBC, that Errol Spence would ever fight Terence Bud Crawford. And he goes on to say that he believes that Errol Spence is at a point in his career where he's only about the money. And that's what he firmly believes until he sees the fight. Wow. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Jump right into it. Top Rank ESPN, they had a special where they were talking about the year end. Basically just doing a year in review or recap like Uncle Murder does with the music and talks about what happened in the world in each year. So they're basically just recapping. Then it got to a spot where they were asking about what fights they would like to see in 2021. Now, Andre Ward, I know him personally, very eloquent. He was just speaking on a fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. He said he knows both guys, he respects them, and he gave his opinion on that particular fight. He was saying, I don't know for everybody what legacy means, but that is the biggest fight that Errol Spence can make is with Bud Crawford outside of a Pacquiao fight, or he said a crazy fight with Canelo moving up in weight. So since you guys can make a great fight together and big business together, he feels that you should put politics aside. Now, Andre Ward, that's my dude, but I disagree with his sentiment because as a businessman myself, I understand how business works. In this, assessment, Andre Ward was basically saying that PBC has won, meaning they have most of the top welterweights in all of boxing. He says, okay, you won, you beat us, you guys got the playground full of all the welterweights. But then he was implying that Errol Spence should, put the politics aside and make for the big fight. But just knowing business, if you have your ops, your competitor in a precarious position, who's going to really do that? Who's going to forfeit any type of leverage, any type of power, and forego that in order to help the opposing side? And I understand that boxing is, a competitive sport. And I understand that fans are going to say, oh, it's supposed to be about the best versus the best. But let's be real. How many times in boxing do politics play a part in all of this and we don't get those fights? Like Top Rank had Vasyl Lomachenko. He had already lost to Salido and they were building him up to be, the next Floyd, or he was as good as Muhammad Ali. And somehow, some way, everybody seems to have forgot but me that the Mikey Garcia fight didn't happen. But now there's this increased pressure to make Errol Spence, two African-American fighters, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fight. But where was this energy from ESPN, Top Rank, HBO, when Lomachenko could have fought Mikey Garcia? We didn't see this narrative being pushed back then. So again, what Andre Ward is saying, he just admitted that PBC has the top rated welterweights, and in that category you have us beat. You have Top Rank, you have ESPN beat. Now that would be one thing, but even though Andre Ward is being sensible and admitting that what we all know, that PBC has the top rated guys, there's a team and an individual person who is not. And that's Terence Crawford and team. Terence Crawford and his team are going around saying 50-50 or no deal. Or if it's going to be somebody getting a lion's share of money, that person must be me. If it's 60-40, it must be 60-40 my way, not Errol Spence. So right then and there is a clear-cut obstacle that I'm seeing, because that doesn't make sense. You have somebody who's working with Top Rank and ESPN acknowledging that the PBC has all of the top welterweights, and in that department they're beaten, and Terence Crawford doesn't have the, he doesn't have the people to go through to play musical chairs with. But then in the same breath, Andre Ward is saying that they should surrender that, and that's one independent issue. But like I said, there's a person who didn't get that memo, and that's Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford believes that he's in the driver's seat somehow, some way. But even Andre Ward is admitting that, PBC has, captained the welterweight division, I guess is a good way to put it. So even more disrespectful is what Timothy Bradley had to say. Right after, at least Andre Ward was, he said his 2 cents, and he says, I'm cautiously optimistic that the fight could happen between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. So he was urging that both parties sit down and put politics aside. My only rebuttal to that is what I just said. When in business do we do that? Why didn't Mikey Garcia and Lomachenko do that? Top rank fighter, and Mikey was a former top rank fighter, but a free agent. They never made the fight, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of fights where politics, Mayweather Pacquiao at a point in time, Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. We still to this day have not seen Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. We could have seen it when they both had belts and when they were both undefeated. But again, I don't understand why everyone's acting brand new with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, as if Cold Wars and sides of the street and landscapes and the political climate hasn't always affected boxing. It's really weird. But at least Andre Ward, he said his piece. But Timothy Bradley, he took it too far. Right after Andre Ward said his piece, Timothy Bradley goes on to say, that fight you just said, I want to see it, but it's not going to happen. And I'm going to play the clip for you. He says that the fight won't happen on account of Errol Spence Jr. is only after money at this point of his career. So I'm going to play it for you. You guys, let me know what you guys think.
I think a lot of people at this point get to play. You have the Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. I know both guys personally. I respect both guys. I'm not taking a side. But I will say this, I get what Errol Spence and PB, I get it. I get the play. I think a lot of people at this point get the play. You have the ace card. You have the majority of the welterweights on your side. Well played. You won the battle. But the war has yet to be fought, and the war is yet to be won. And I think the question is not, do these guys have to fight one another? It's, do you want to fight one another? I love Sean Porter. I love Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman. I respect all those guys. Came up with those guys. But those guys are not Terence Crawford. At a certain point in time, you put the politics aside and you put the business of boxing aside. I'm not saying don't go get your money. Get your money. But you tap your guy, your representative on the shoulder and say, make the fight. Now, let's get as much as we can get, but make the fight. That's where I think these guys are at right now.
So that was the first part from Andre Ward. Again, I don't agree with that assessment just based on the fact that Terence Crawford doesn't respect that role. Errol Spence says 60-40, 70-30, and Crawford is acting like he's in the driver's seat. The other issue you have is Manny Pacquiao has publicly said through his advisor, the word was spread to Yahoo Sports that they would be interested in a fight with Errol Spence. So Andre Ward did say if there's a fight looming with Pacquiao, then that's obviously kind of trumps all. And I think that's what they are kind of working towards for Errol Spence. So Terence Crawford, again, would have to wait on the back burner. And he says, I know Sean Porter and Keith Thurman and these other guys are good, but they're not Terence Crawford. But the thing is, the thing I disagree with in that is the fact that Keith Thurman fought a Pacquiao, right? He fought a Sean Porter. He fought Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia fought a Errol Spence, fought a Sean Porter, fought a Keith Thurman, fought a Lucas Matisse, fought Amir Khan and knocked him out, right? And so on and so forth. Sean Porter, crazy resume. He fought Broner. He fought Keith Thurman. He fought against Berto. He fought against Errol Spence and really gave it a go. So I get that those guys don't fight like Terence Crawford and they're not Terence Crawford. But again, Terence Crawford also has the resume at welterweight that is lacking the most. So between Terence Crawford's resume at welterweight lacking, plus the fact that he doesn't seem to feel that he will get less despite Errol Spence having the better quality names and doing the heavy lifting and the numbers, it's not that simple to just put politics aside. If he was coming to the table and saying, hey, I just want to fight, I want to prove my worth, I'll take 60-40, then that might be something else. But again, I don't know what part of the game it is in boxing where you would forfeit any type of advantage that you have, like a football team. If they have a home game, there's no reason to go to the opponent's field if you don't have to, you know? And I think Errol Spence, based on what he's done, the way he's been branded, the names he's fought, the fighting Kell Brook in his backyard and stopping him years before Terence Crawford even fought him, 3 years before he fought him, fighting a Lamont Peterson, going up before that and being the boogeyman at the welterweight division, going up the ranks. And he had the same trouble trying to land the big fights. And you got to respect Errol Spence's journey. Errol Spence was the boogeyman calling out Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia. He wasn't getting none of those looks. But he had to beat Chris Algieri worse than Pacquiao did and a puncher like Ruslan Provodnikov. Errol Spence had to go through the motions and beat Leonard Bundu better than Keith Thurman did. He had to keep, his position intact with the IBF and keep staying on Kell Brook. Because if you remember, Kell Brook was talking about fighting Floyd and said he wanted to fight Pacquiao or Keith Thurman. So basically, realistically, and he was saying that Errol Spence is an unknown American and he can't really get up for that fight because he's the American Jeff Lacey or whatever he was saying, right? So Errol Spence, he went through the evolution and the maturation. So I don't agree with Ward here. I don't think it's as easy as just putting politics aside, especially when Team Crawford and Bomac, his manager, they're not really being reasonable. They're saying they want 50-50 versus Errol or Pacquiao, and I don't think that's going to happen. But now let's listen to Timothy Bradley and what he had to say, which was crazy. He said basically Errol Spence is just in it for money, which sounds absurd.
Your legacy and threatening everything that you've earned up until this point. So I am cautiously optimistic that we're going to see this fight in late 2021.
Tim, whether it's a fight, whether it's a fighter, whether it's a movement or a trend, what do you want to see in the year ahead in boxing?
There's so many fights that I would like to see. One in particular that you just spoke on. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. I don't see it happening. Why would you go up north and face Canelo, but you won't face Terence Crawford in the same weight class as you?
Thank you.
That's a money thing for him. I think that Spence is at a point now, and correct me if I'm wrong, or I think he's just wants to get the money and then he wants to lead the game. That's it. He has no intentions on fighting Terence Crawford. And I think that even if Terence Crawford was to jump ship and to go over there to PBC, I still don't see the fight happening over there. And I stand by that until they actually sign and fight. But
so that was Tim Bradley, his take on the Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. I 1000% disagree with Timothy Baldhead Bradley. I think Bradley, realistically, he's being disrespectful here because at the end of the day, first of all, it's a contradiction in what they're saying. In one portion of this end of the year and review roundup, State of Boxing, they have the panel and they're praising Errol Spence for getting in a heinous wreck and taking a Danny Garcia, who they agree is game. So that doesn't even make sense what Timothy Bradley says. In one portion, and you're suggesting he's just in it for the cash and money grabs. It just doesn't make sense, because if that was the case, Errol Spence, if you follow his social media, he told you, he said, I could have retired after the wreck and been good and been cool. But he also tells you that he wouldn't want to quit, even though he felt like quitting at times, because he wouldn't want his kids to grow up like, man, my dad quit, so feel like they could quit when the going gets tough. So I just got a big heart for this boxing game because it's tough and it's grueling. And I think Bradley, as a former fighter, That's just disrespectful, bro. You just disrespecting Errol Spence all the way, saying he's only fighting for money, and a man flew out of a car and came back to top shelf work in Danny Garcia. And all this to do some kind of narrative or reverse psychology Jedi mind trick to try to get the Terence Crawford fight. I think this is an all-time low, and I still don't feel Terence Crawford nor Top Rank or ESPN are in the driver's seat in making the fight. You're not gonna try to bully your way into the fight or guilt trip Errol Spence into the fight. Listen, it's a cool fight, but Terence Crawford, there's other great fights for him as well, like Sean Porter. What about that? Keith Thurman. You know, why should the other welterweights fight each other amongst each other and they're perceived as the best, and Terence Crawford has the easiest path? Jeff Horn, I don't know how many people thought he was really the one, you know? So it just, to me, all in all, this was a bad look. Timothy Bradley suggesting some stuff like that, I don't see it one bit. I don't think Errol Spence is in it for the money. And, you know, he even said something about the Canelo fight. The Canelo fight, that in itself doesn't make sense. How would Errol Spence, a welterweight, be willing to go up to 160 to fight someone as good as Canelo, but he's scared of Terence Crawford? I mean, you guys in the comment section, let me know if this makes sense. But I told you, not everyone could do what I do when it comes to boxing commentary, because some people make themselves look foolish when they put out these thoughts. It's like they don't even think about what they're saying. You know, he was talking about fights he wanted to see. Tim Bradley sounds like a company man. And this is just a side note, Tim Bradley looks huge too right now. It looks like, you know, he's really enjoying his off season because he looked a lot bigger, and it's just like blabbering on, but he seems kind of like in the company man role to me, where Timothy Bradley also said that one of his most anticipated fights was Miguel Berchelt versus Valdez, which happens to be a Top Rank fight that they announced they're making, I think, for February. So I don't know, he's just getting his company man vibes on, but I think it was really disrespectful to suggest that Errol Spence is not a true fighter and he's not fighting for the same reasons as you. And again, what are all of these people going to say, this whole round table and everything? What are they going to say if Errol Spence gets a Manny Pacquiao fight? You know, so all these little like low ball, you know, low blow tactics to try to shame him into the fight doesn't make sense. The other thing that Timothy Bradley said that really didn't make no damn sense to me was, even if Terence Crawford went over to PBC, he still wouldn't get the fight. How would you know that he wouldn't get the fight if he never went to PBC? That doesn't even make sense. Like, how can you suggest what would or wouldn't happen in a makeshift, imaginary, make-believe situation that has not happened? You're saying he just, even if he went over there, you're certain that he wouldn't get the fight, even if he jumped ship and left Top Rank. But he's been with Top Rank for most of his career and most of his championships. So how do you know what PBC, organization you do not work for, how do you know what they would be willing to make? Because using that logic, look at the top welterweights. Name a top welterweight that has not been in there tough. Keith Thurman fought Pacquiao. He fought Sean Porter. And he fought Danny. Errol Spence fought, at this point, Sean Porter, Lamont, Danny, and Kell Brook. Right? And he fought Mikey Garcia when he was undefeated. And so on and so forth. Danny just fought Errol, Keith, Sean. Sean fought Berto, Broner, and all the same dudes. You know, Errol and Keith and Danny. So the people who are aligned with PBC, they're not having any trouble getting these fights. So why would Terence Crawford, if he went over there, why would he just be the odd man out in the black sheep where he can't get no work? It just doesn't make sense what's being said, people. You know, because everybody that I named, all the top welterweights, are getting looks. You know, even Ugas is getting Omar Figueroa. They're doing more with Ugas, and he's actually being appreciated. And he was with Top Rank. You know, when he was with Top Rank, no one even knew when he was fighting and stuff. And Ugas is probably up for a big fight. And guys like Josecito Lopez. Josecito, he got big fights with PBC, you know? So I don't know where Bradley gets off saying that even if Crawford went over there, he wouldn't get no looks. So, you know, you just made that up because Crawford has never been with PBC and you never know until you try. So it just seems like a weird agenda that's being pushed to try to put this pressure on Errol Spence, but I'm telling you, it's not going to work. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know how I did in this video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more sports. Get unlimited access to premium content with an ESPN Plus subscription. ESPN Plus offers a variety of content, including specials, behind the scenes, docuseries like Bruce Lee's Be Water, and much more. With an ESPN Plus subscription, you get access to a ton of classic archive fights and replays from boxing and the UFC. Big names like, "Hi, I'm Mike Tyson. Come and watch my fight." Floyd Mayweather, "Easy work. I'm rich." And Manny Pacquiao, "Yes, it's up to my promoter. Just to name a few. If that's not enough, you could get the ESPN bundle, which includes ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus. All three apps, one low price. You don't want to miss out. Make sure you guys click that link in the description box of all of my videos. Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.